It's Wednesday and it is time for another expat video. Okay, so today I really want to talk about expat life and the 6 things that nobody really talks about. I have wanted to do this video for the longest time because I feel like it's really important for people who are new to the expat life or thinking of moving abroad, you know, whether it be for studying or working or, you know, joining a partner overseas. I think it's really important for you to have a heads up on what to expect, or at least the downside of expat life, because there definitely is one. And just to get this out of the way, I am not here to burst your bubble to tell you that living abroad is a bad idea or you're going to regret doing it, or it's going to be a bad experience for you. I'm here to say that yes, it is an amazing experience. You know, it really changes you as a person and opens your mind up to just, you know, a bigger world, and there's just so many benefits and just advantages to living abroad. But similarly, there are as many, well, maybe it's not fair to say as many, but there are also cons, and there's also a downside. And I think that if you are not aware of these things or not prepared to deal with them when they do come up, it can really derail your plans or just make your expat or your living abroad experience, you know, a negative one. So without blabbing too much, let's get straight into it. Okay, so right at number 1, we have the most obvious one, and that's homesickness. Now, it doesn't happen to everybody, but it definitely happens to most people, so it's important to know that it is normal. Homesickness doesn't kick in up until about 3 months after moving to a new country, or at least it didn't for me. I think right in the beginning, everything's still really new and exciting, and you're exploring, and you're very much playing the tourist role until month 3 comes along and you realize that you're not a tourist, you're not on holiday, and you are definitely not going home anytime soon. So homesickness can be really, really hard if you don't know how to deal with it, but there definitely are things that you can do and ways to get through it until it passes. Next, at number 2, we have loneliness. So loneliness is kind of as a result of homesickness in a way, and I am in no way a mental health professional. I don't have any kind of qualification in psychology or whatever, and I know that you can be lonely for very many different reasons and not necessarily just because you're alone. But in this instance, it is. You realize that your family and friends are really, really far away from you. You haven't made new friends yet, and there is no one just around the corner or a phone call away that can meet you for coffee or go see a movie or whatever it is that you used to do back home. So loneliness is a big thing. It can really get really out of hand, again, if you don't know how to deal with it and you don't know how to keep yourself busy, or basically how to get yourself out of the house in, you know, a foreign country where you know nobody. This was especially hard for me, and I struggled with it for a long time, and I still do. We're about 2 years in as expats. We lived in the UK first, and now we're in the Netherlands, and only now I'm starting to get out of that loneliness by really just putting myself out there, making sure I get out every day and try and meet as many new people as I possibly can. But that's for another video. But it's important to know that this is going to happen. You are going to feel really, really lonely. You're going to miss your friends and family, of course, and you're just going to feel really alone in the world, because for a little while there you really are alone in the world, other than you or whoever it is that you moved abroad with. If you did, some students don't, they move abroad on their own, and it takes a while before you start to meet people and really make friends. So at number 3, we have got starting from scratch. Now, for a lot of people this might sound like heaven, because maybe you are looking for that fresh start somewhere new, starting a new job, maybe, you know, living in a new apartment or redecorating your apartment, which all can be really fun. But if you've moved quite often and you move from country to country or from place to place, this can become really expensive. It can become really inconvenient, really time consuming, because you really have to rebuild your life and start from scratch in so many different areas of your life. One example is just having to, like I said, refurnish your apartment or your house because you weren't able to bring your belongings along with you. Like in our case, we moved from South Africa and it was really, really far, and we weren't able to, of course, take our furniture along. And then even when we moved from the UK to the Netherlands, we moved ourselves, we did our own move, and so we weren't able to fit all of our things in and ended up losing some pieces. And then second to that, it's just starting from over socially. You don't know anybody, and if you're starting in a job and that was your reason for the move, then maybe it's easier for you to meet new people, but it still takes a while to really develop genuine connections and friendships with people to the point where you are going out socially or visiting at each other's homes for dinner and so on. So it does take a long time to rebuild that social circle. For most of us, it takes pretty much our lifetime or our school life to, you know, make the friends that we end up having in our adult life. And so having to start from scratch with that is really daunting. It's really, you know, takes you out of your comfort zone, and it really does take time. Moving on to number 4, we have got culture shock / language barrier. Now, depending on where you move to, the culture shock or the language barrier may or may not be present, or may be more in some places and less in others. In the UK, there was definitely a culture shock, just the way that people live, how they interact with each other, how they are socially, and just like the general vibe was very different from what I was used to as a South African. So that was a definite adjustment for me. I was searching for home in all sorts of places and I could just not find it, because in those instances it's really important to just kind of get lost in a new culture and not try and necessarily look for your old culture that you used to, you know, have. So moving to the Netherlands and living here now, I feel, for me personally, not everyone feels like this, but I feel a lot more at home here. I feel like the culture here is a lot closer to you know, what South African culture is like, but I won't get into that. That's just my personal opinion. But of course, there are a lot of things that are different here, but for me, it was positive differences, so I welcome that. But for you, it may be, like I said, different depending on where you live. It can be a really negative experience if you really just can't connect to the culture or to the people. But like, you know, everything else, there are ways around that. There are ways to adapt. There are ways to try and integrate yourself into that new culture. And then on the language side, we were obviously lucky when we moved to the UK because they speak English like we do in South Africa for the most part. And but however, even though they speak English, some of the accents are just so colorful and different that even though they speak English, sometimes it was really hard to understand what they were saying, especially if they spoke fast. And also in Liverpool, where we live, they have what is known as the Scouse accent, and it is really something special, and I couldn't for the hell of me understand what people were saying when they were speaking Scouse. But I mean, it's not limited to that. There were very many different accents that made it quite hard to understand even the same language that I was speaking. Moving to the Netherlands, things have of course been different. They speak Dutch here. I do not speak Dutch. But luckily everyone speaks English, or most people speak English, so that has been a plus. But it can be really difficult if you move to a country where they speak little English, if you are English speaking, or if they speak a language different to your native tongue, of course. It makes life harder in general. It makes life harder trying to get set up. So that's trying to get all of your just trying to get your home set up, phoning service providers, and trying to get services set up. You know, going out and just communicating with people. Also, you know, grocery shopping is hard even for me, even though I understand a little bit of Dutch because of my Afrikaans background. Shopping is hard because even though some things are very clearly what they are, like milk and eggs and cheese, you don't really need labels for that. But when it comes to specifics like, you know, what food includes, or whether if you want to read directions, directions on the back of a product or something that you bought, that becomes really, really hard. It's like when we got our Ziggo box, which is kind of the equivalent of like Sky or, you know, some kind of it. It was really hard to set that up because everything comes in Dutch. When I got Raphael registered at kind of like a clinic, they sent me a little booklet with information on babies, and that was all in Dutch. So that can be really, really hard, and oftentimes it's in your basic interest to just do a course and try and learn the local language. But again, that costs money, it takes time, dedication, etc. It of course is needed in most cases, but again, that is something to obviously pay attention to and to deal with if you find yourself in that situation. But yeah, language barrier can be a huge deal and a big deal depending on how much of the language you speak or understand, if any, and then obviously taking steps to improve the situation by actually learning the language. So initially I was only going to talk about the 5 things that no one speaks about with regards to expat life, but I decided to throw in an extra one just because I thought it was too important to leave out. So at number 5 we have got admin. There's just loads and loads of admin, guys. Again, this is specific to each person depending on your nationality and the country that you are moving to. And obviously every country has their own set of requirements. So for me, being a South African, my passport is not worth a whole lot. So I have to do loads and loads of admin pretty much anywhere I go. So I had to do loads of admin before going into the UK. Then once I got there, my permit was only valid for 6 months, and I had to do another application which entails loads and loads of documentation. I mean, they want to know everything, and you have to submit so much proof and evidence. And of course I was moving across with my partner who is a European citizen, and so we had to basically prove our relationship. So they wanted everything from photographs to email history and WhatsApp history, and they wanted to see e-tickets from flights that we had taken together to go on holiday. They wanted to see declarations from family and friends confirming that we were a couple and that we've been together for X amount of time. They wanted to see proof that we lived together, etc, etc, etc. So it was quite a lengthy and extensive application which takes 6 months to process, and in that time I found it hard to find a job because employers were just not comfortable with the fact that I had an application pending, and they did not want to chance it, fearing that I might be rejected and then they would have to start looking for somebody else again. And then of course when I moved over to the Netherlands, I had to do the same thing. I could not register immediately like the rest of my family. I had to go to IND first, apply for some kind of permit, and again I am now in the waiting process and can expect to hear back from them around November, and we are now in June. So it can definitely cause delays and frustrations and kind of prevent you from doing certain things. Like in the UK, when I was awaiting the outcome of my BRP, I was not allowed to travel because my initial permit had expired, and so I would have had no way to get back into the UK should I have gone to visit family or gone on a vacation or anything like that. So the admin is definitely a downside. I mean, nobody wants to get caught up with loads and loads of paperwork, and it's just so stressful trying to make sure that you have everything and that everything is sufficient, and that and then to just hope and pray that they accept it, that they're not fussy because it's a copy or because it doesn't have a certain stamp. We had so many hiccups with just registering Raphael and, you know, trying to get our own document or my own documentation together for my permit. So yeah, be prepared for that, and be prepared for it to go. Be prepared for it to be ongoing as long as you keep moving around for a long time, because even once you marry the person, a lot of people think that once you marry your partner, then you have an automatic ticket to wherever, and that is not the case. There's still admin that you need to do, that you still need to apply for a certain kind of I don't know, exemption or a certain kind of permit that allows you to remain with your family. So it's a lot of work, and it's also really stressful because you worry about whether you will get rejected or not, in which case it's like, what do? You know, you're here with your family, they can stay, you can't, like, you know, it's definitely a downside. So at number 6 we have got missing out. And this for me was almost a deal breaker. If it wasn't for my permit preventing me from leaving the UK, I probably would have hopped on a plane a long time ago and gone back to South Africa, and I'm not even joking about this. For those of you who know me, you know that I complain bitterly many a day about feeling like I'm stuck and like I can't leave the country and go and visit my family and friends. But this didn't become a deal breaker for me, or almost become a deal breaker for me, until I fell pregnant with my son, which is while I was in the UK. And it hit me at that moment, and I don't know why I didn't really think about this at the time that we decided to have a baby, because it was a decision. It wasn't an oops, like maybe most or some people think. It was a decision, and I really just didn't think about this. Maybe I thought it would be really easy to just go back to South Africa, or that my partner and I would have been in agreement to just go back to South Africa, but that was not the case. So missing out was a big deal for me. You want more biscuits? Here you go. I immediately realized that my son was going to grow up away from my family. My immediate family. He was not going to have the kind of relationship or the close kind of relationship that I would have wanted him to have with my sisters, with his grandma and grandpa, and so on. Also, he was going to grow up with a very different childhood from the one that I had, possibly. He was not going to understand my culture, my background, and where I come from. He would not be able to relate to that. Of course, I'm saying this assuming that we're never going to go back to South Africa, because at the time it really did feel that way. I still don't know for certain whether we will go back or not, but for now we are living in the Netherlands, and I don't know for how long it's going to be. If we'll stay here, if we'll live somewhere else, if we'll go back to SA, it's really, kind of open. But missing out is a big thing, and it wasn't just missing out in that way. It was missing weddings, missing families, special occasions, missing births. My cousin had his second daughter. Another cousin of mine got engaged. I missed that. I missed my sister's visits when she would come off the cruise ship. You just miss out on life in general. And it's hard when you sit on social media and you see everyone together, or they send you photos or videos of themselves at someone's birthday party or during Christmas time or New Year's, and everyone's there except you, and so that for me, that was the hardest, and I think it can be for, I speak to a lot of other expats and expat moms, and they feel exactly the same way. But I mean, this is the life that we chose for ourselves for whatever our reasons were, and it's just something that you have to deal with. You need to try and keep contact in other ways as much as possible, whether it be through Skype or video calls or sending photos back and forth, trying to visit as often as possible. For us it's hard because South Africa is really far away, so we can only maybe go every 2 years, and then my family or some of my family will visit every 2 years as well. Basically, we'll kind of alternate. We'll go 1 year, they'll come the next year, something like that. But it can be really expensive to travel there, especially as the family grows or our family grows. And likewise for my family, it's really expensive to come and visit us. So for me, number 6 is a hard one. It's one that I still, find hard to deal with. But it comes with the territory, and like I said right in the beginning of the video, there is a lot of... What? I'm almost done. There are a lot of benefits to this life, friends, but there are also downsides. You kind of have to weigh, the pros and the cons and decide for yourself whether these 6 things are deal breakers for you or not. But I'm happy that I have just given you that heads up, and from here you can decide whether you still want to go ahead with that move that you're thinking of, or whether you want to continue living as an expat. But for me, that is all for now. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down, but please let me know what you thought of it. If you're new to this channel and you're not a subscriber, please please go ahead and subscribe, and I will see you on the flip side. Ciao!